Welcome! Yesterday I made this big bowl. It turned out the biggest I ever made. In general, I like to trim my pots, and especially with a big bowl where managing all that clay is more difficult, I always find it necessary in order to perfect the shape, and especially on the inside. But dealing with large surfaces like this is a special challenge, and in this video I'm going to show you a few really nice tricks for doing that. Using normal trimming loop tools for trimming a bowl like this can be a bit of a challenge because you have such a big surface and you want a continuous flow, and that's difficult to get with a small trimming tool. They can be good to start the initial trimming. Like, for example, with a bowl like this, you very often end up with what some people refer to as a beginner's shoulder. I don't really like that term. It's sort of negative, but you know what I mean, where you have a nice flow in the beginning and then you have a little bit of a bulb and then a nice flow too at the bottom. On this bowl, it's actually not bad, but there's a little bit. I would like it to be more continuous. To initially scrape off some of that, you can use a trimming tool. I actually sometimes prefer some of these. A round one sometimes good because you only take small parts at a time. Anyway, that's okay. So let's start with that. But please keep watching, because getting a continuous flow throughout the pot with this tool is not that easy. So we'll start with this. As you can see, there's a little bit of a shoulder here. It's not much, and when I fill, there's actually plenty of clay for me to even that out. So to begin with, I'll try and get just a little bit of that off. And at this point, I'm not too worried about how smooth it is, because that's what I'm going to do next. I'll show you how. I'll try and remove as much of the scrapings as I go. But don't try and take all of it up, because if you push it into your pot, then it's sort of stuck. So just take whatever loose element you have. I'm not doing this so much to make it lighter. It is a big bowl, so it's not going to be light anyway. For smaller pots, I would also trim to just make it lighter and more pleasant to move around on a table or something. But this, no matter what I do, it's still going to be a heavy, heavy pot. So that's fine. It's a little bit left here. So now it looks more even. There's a little bit here. I think I'm going to leave that for now. Now the challenge is to get that smooth surface all the way through. And as I mentioned, the small loop tools are difficult to do that. So I have another tool. This one. You may recognize it. It's a Hacksaw blade. It's super cheap. I think I paid, I don't know, $50 for 4 of them or something. Super, super cheap. And they're very, very good. I'm not using the blade or the edgy part of it, but the smooth part of it. And I use it like this, like a very big scraper. But this way, I can scrape over a larger surface and get a much more smooth transition. So let's see how that works. And as you see, it actually works really, really well. And because you hold on to each end, you have a very good handle on it. So you see, now we get a much smoother and continuous flow on the inside. And I mentioned there was a little bit up here that would be easier to take with this tool. And again, be careful not to scrape off the scrap, because then you're going to push it into the clay. I'm just going to remove the biggest pieces for now. I'm actually going a little bit too fast. So, I don't know if you can see it. It's always difficult on video, but now I'm getting a really, really nice curve. Do you see? I hope you can see it. It's getting really, really nice, the whole curve. I think there's still a little bit up here. I think it's nice now. Of course, now you have a very rough surface. This is very groggy clay, so sometimes you get little pieces of grog dragging around with the tool. But now I can move on with a smaller, flexible metal rib, and just make sure that the surface is not only even but also smooth and nice. But so I'm focusing on the curve with my hacksaw tool, and then I will smooth the surface with my metal rib. And also make sure that this corner down here is super smooth and nice. I really like that. So, we're getting there. See? Now this is going to be glazed with a base of floating blue variant. There's a very thick glaze. So even if there's some small scratches here, you won't see that. But I will even out as much of it as possible, given the fact that it is a very groggy clay. So you can sometimes push in some of those scratches and stones the grog by using it very flat. You see, that way it gets much smoother. I'm not too concerned with these little marks because I know the glaze I'm using will cover that. But in case you're using a different glaze, or maybe just a clear glaze, or want to do some underglaze decorations or something, you may want a more smooth surface. And in that case, you just need to work it a little more than what I'm doing here. I'm just changing to one that's a little smaller for this. Sometimes you have to use your fingers a little bit to just smooth it out. See, now it's beginning to look really, really nice down there. You can also use a soft rib. These ones, I think, are from what tools? They get a different hardness. This one is a soft one. So I'm just going to continue the rest of the way up here. And I do add my hand on the underside, even though it is very stiff now. I don't want to risk breaking off these flanges. So, I think that looks good. I will also smoothen the edge and sort of harden it a little bit. So I'm using a shiny stone for that, and just gonna go over the edge. You can also use it on the inside. It will sort of burnish the surface a little bit. So now I think it looks nice. The curve is perfect, or at least it's like I wanted it to be. I don't know if you think it's perfect, but I like it this way. It's perfect enough for me. I'm just gonna do the last thing with my fingers in here, in the middle. So, that's it. So that was the inside, and the most important of what I wanted to show you was this wonderful tool. Go to your hardware store and buy a bunch of them. They're so nice. Of course, I also want to trim the outside. It's just a little bit bulky, and I want to perfect the foot. I'm probably going to throw a foot ring on this one because I have a lot of clay down there, so there's plenty of it. But how do you turn a pot like this? Well, of course you need a bed that's much bigger, and I have some. I made these ones, I cut them out of MDF, and they fit perfectly on this. They are a little more than 55, so they just about fit this. Of course, if I end up doing bigger bowl than this, I will need bigger beds. But they're very cheap to make, and then you can switch it around like a cake. And because I have drilled bed pin holes for this, I can just put it into the bed pins I have on my wheel. But before you switch it around, you got to make sure that it's strong enough, because otherwise, I mean, it is a lot of weight, and you put all the weight on the rim, and if it's not strong enough, you will distort that. So first, I'll just get a little bit of the clay down here out in the foot and cut it loose. That's always difficult with a large, shallow pot like this, because I can hardly see anything. I'm just trying to do it as good as I can. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't think it gets much better. And I just want to cut like a small angle in here, so my wire has something to grab onto. Something like that. And now I need to remove the splash pans because I just don't have room for that. So we got through. And now it's time to try and turn it. So I'll place it as precisely as I can, trying to center it as much as possible. And then it's time to turn it around. And this is, of course, a tricky part and potentially very risky. But I think we will make it. I just need to loosen the bed here. Like this. Also because it is quite heavy, and I don't want to just tip it slowly because then it may fall. So I'm just throwing it up, turning it around like that. Fast move. And now I need to remove my buckets. There's not enough room for that. And then we need to put it on the pins. And that's the tricky part, because of course you can't see the holes and you can't see the pins. So first you need to figure out where the holes. I found the holes, and then I need to see where are the pins. So now I have a finger here on the hole, and here the pin. So now I need to try and see if I can somehow get it to fall into. Sometimes it helps to move down and take a look. It's sort of tricky. Oh, that was. And it's the first one that's tricky. The other one, you just have to find out if you have to turn it one way or the other. So, there we go. So now it's in place. And now I just want to see if it's well centered. I'm actually going to keep this because this helps me move it around without distorting the rim. So let's look at that. Yeah, it could move a little bit this way. I'm not very good with tap centering, but even if I was, I don't think that you could tap center this much. I think this is the best I can do for now. So I'm removing this. And now we can check again. Yeah, it actually needs to move a little more this way. I think this is as even as it gets. The good thing about a heavy pot like this is that you don't really need any support. Normally I would put a couple of lumps of clay to support it, but this is not flying off. Not easy, at least. So the first thing I want to do is mark where I want the inner side of the rim. I will cut away a little bit here, but not too much because I don't want a small foot. I want this to be stable on the table. So this way also I'm securing that what I have here is going to be completely centered. So instead of pushing in from the side, because now I have uneven, let me just move the camera so you can see it better. So now you can see there's a little bit of a difference in the size, but the inner circle here is completely circular. So instead of pushing in from the side, because if we do that, I would end up with something that's not circular. So I push down from the top, trying to follow this line that I just made that is completely circular. I love this trimming tool from Mod Tools. It's very good because I have all these different variation and angles. So for something like this, it's usually very good. So now I marked the circle, so to speak. I need to remove a little bit of clay out here. But now I have something to aim for. The tricky part here is that it's difficult to find a good place to rest your arms. So I'm just trying to, put my elbows to my my body and sit very tight. So now we're getting there. Yeah. Now it's beginning to look like a foot. And it's perfectly circular. So now we can move down to, maybe I will take this instead. Now we can make the real foot. Like this. Yeah. And now, of course, trimming this is going to be a little more messy because you don't have the splash pan or anything, but you can clean up afterwards. So Now I'm not going to do more on the foot right now because I want to do the inside here. But first I want to make sure that it's flat where I will keep the foot ring. So something like that. And then I'm ready to do the inner part of the foot. And for that, I start out with a very small loop tool. And again, trying to hold my arms in to my body so it's steady. Of course, I'm not going to make a very thin rim because it needs to hold this pot. So now we have a rim and or a foot rim. As you can see now, it's even all the way around. And of course, that's what I want. So now I need to remove some of the clay in here. And I think I can go to some that's a little bit bigger. And I usually start with the corner because that's going to put less pressure on the clay and make sure that we don't push it around. I'm just going to do this sort of a guide. So now we have this spiral, and then I can use the flat side of it to remove the clay from the grooves and the tops, well, the top. And as always with the foot, don't lean it on the clay, hold it and scrape it so that you get an even surface. Otherwise, if you let it bump up and down with the clay, you're not going to get an even surface. Of course, we want that. And I know there's many different styles of foot, but I like the curve to sort of continue in the foot. So I'll make it deeper here and a little higher here in the end when I'm done. So it's actually getting a little bit too thin for my taste. You can see that it's reacting a little bit. So I have to be really, really careful now. And so now I'm just going to scrape the surface. Yeah. I don't mind if it's a little bit rough on a pot like this. On a small bowl or cup or something, I would like it to be finer, more detailed. But for this sort of big bowl, I don't mind that it's a little bit rough. It's of course a matter of taste, but that's how I like it. Now, of course, cutting away the upper layer of the clay will get you down to something that's a little more wet So I'm just going to leave it for now, and I'm going to make this angle here bevel, because that's going to help me avoid getting the glaze down on my shelves. So I will glaze up until here, the bevel start, but it will look like there's glaze all the way down because it's a 45-degree angle, and it's a very good glazing trick. I know I mentioned this a lot of times in the past, but it's still good. So, and then I'll smooth out the bottom with my finger here and just make the corners a little bit round, because if you have very sharp corners, there's a very higher, the risk is much higher for this to chip off in the end. Anyway, before I end, I just wanted to show you my trimming tool on the outside too, because of course it's also very useful here, because it's difficult to see this part of the pot when you throw it, because it's so wide, it's shallow, and therefore it's difficult to see this part. So also there's a few bumps here, and I want to even them out, because in the final pot, I think that's going to look nicer. So with this tool, it's just so much easier than it is with a small trimming tool. See, now we're getting a smooth surface, or at least a smooth curve. Then I can use my my other tools, my metal rib, the small flexible rib, to push down the grog into the clay and sort of burnish it a little bit, if I want that. But this is definitely much better now. And then up here, it's a little bit difficult with this tool to take this part up here, but I'll just use a normal loop tool for that. Which is also fine. Just have to pay a little more attention. So, I think we got all in all, it's beginning to look good. This is not, it's still stable, but I just felt that it was getting a little bit weak, so I don't want to do anything more here. I will probably just let it spin for a few more hours, let it dry slowly here, and then come back and just perfect the shaping. But yeah, there's a little bit more here. All in all, I think this looks good now. I will let it spin very slowly for the next couple of hours, maybe overnight, because when you spin it very slowly, it's also going to dry more evenly. Even if there's a little bit of sun coming in from the windows, there may be a drag or something, but having it spin slowly will make sure that it dries a little more even. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this little follow-up on my big bowl. I do enjoy trimming, and I do enjoy trimming these large bowls, but I have some challenges. But remember, go buy some Hacksaw blades. It's one of my favorite trimming tools, and it's so super cheap. So that's all for now. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe, share, write a comment. Maybe you have other ideas for how to trim these super big bowls. And come back next Sunday, 5 p.m. Central European time. I usually have a new video ready. So I hope to see you very soon again.